Good morning. I'm going to explain to you how I went about calculating your midterm exam grades. As I told you when we started, we're going to do a combination of curving and adjusting the grades, not going with a straight percentage. And so I finally gotten around to doing that calculation as you see it on the spreadsheet in front of you. But now I'm going to explain what this all means so that you can see how you got from your exam grade to the actual mid-term exam grade after it was curved and adjusted. Anyway, the scores here in this column E right here, 70 was the total possible points on the exam. These are the relative scores that the various students got. All right. And so if we had used a straight percentage, we aren't, and I told you that up front, but I wanted you to see how the grades actually transition from straight to curved and adjusted. So if you take these exam scores, divide them by 70 out of the possible, this is the percentage you would have gotten, and then that percentage would have equated to this grade. Okay, so as you can see, straight percentage, not so good. This is the high score right here. Someone did manage to get a 61 out of 70, which even on a straight percentage would have been an 87.1, which actually would not be a B plus. Yeah, it would. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's the lowest B plus, 87, 88, and 89. Okay, so with that, this is what a normal distribution of those scores would have been based on a straight percentage calculation. Now, as I mentioned, we weren't doing that, so we can just ignore these in the red. That's why they're in red, meaning stop, no, don't use them. Next, over here in this sort of neutral color, yellow light, caution, what's going on type of color, you can see this is what your grades would have been if they had been curved. Now, let me explain that. As you know, a curve is based on a distribution of the mean and the standard deviation. You've all seen the bell curve. You know, it's sort of big and fat in the middle and then slides down and goes out. They call it a bell curve because it sort of looks like a bell, you know, if it was swinging, ringing, freedom rings and all that fun stuff. Anyway, so what I had to do with your scores here was to calculate the mean, which came out to a 42.83, and the standard deviation of a 10.89. Now I could use those fractions, you know, 0.83 and 0.89, but believe me, it's just easier if I make them into whole numbers. And quite frankly, the lower the whole number, the better, uh, because again, you want to be above that score. So if that score is higher, it makes it harder to be above it. So I took the 42.83 and made it a 42, and the 10.89 and made it a 10. So this is our starting point. 42 is the average score, and the standard deviation was 10, which means if we take the mean and take it plus and minus one standard deviation, that's that middle part of the curve and would represent a C. So 42 minus 10 is a 32, and 42 plus 10 is a 52. So that would say that everything between a 32 and a 52 would be a C. Then if we take the next standard deviation, so we subtract another 10, that would mean everything between the 22 and the 32 would be a D, and everything between a 52 and a 62 would be a B. Then in order to get an A, you have to be in that third standard deviation, in which this case would be anything 62 or above. And in order to fail, you'd have to be below this 22, and so it'd be below. Now, what I did then in this middle column here under the curved, you see this reads curve here in column Hij, is I took that distribution and distributed it among the grades, F to an A. Actually, this ought to read A up here. I don't know why I didn't put that in there. Let me put that there now. A. Okay, so we're going to give that an A. Let's make it look like the others. There we go. Okay, so now A to F. And so how does this work? Well, 42 being in the middle, that's right in the middle here between 38 and 45, and that's the C as we're saying. But we do pluses and minuses at Temple. So we start at the 32 here as the lowest C minus. You see that right here. 32. What did I do here? Something messed up here. Let's try that again. Okay, I'm sorry. Yep, C minus here. I was looking over here at the regular scores, not the curved score. So the C minus here is a 32 to a 37. C is a 38 to a 45, and a C plus is a 46 to 51. Where that comes from is if you take this total from 32 to 51, you'll see that it's a distribution of, I believe, 3, 6, 12, 20 scores. So that means I give 6 scores down below here, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 6 scores down below. Same with the C plus, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51. And then there's 8 scores in the middle, 38 through 45, and that would be the C. So this is your distribution from 32 to 51, representing this down here that we were talking about before. Then starting at 52, as down here, that becomes the B. And so the lowest B is a B minus. Okay, so that's 52, 53, 54. Since that middle distribution is 1 standard deviation below and 1 above, that's why it's 20 scores, but normally there's 10 as we move up then and move down. So you have 3 at the bottom, 3 at the top, and 4 in the middle. So your B minus is 52 to 54, B 55 to 58, and B plus 59 to 61. Same thing going the other way. 3 scores at the top of the D, 3 scores at the bottom of the D, and 4 in the middle. So you have your 22 to 24, 25 to 28, 29 to 31. So those are your D range. And then as I said, anything under 22, so 0 to 21 is an F. We don't do pluses and minuses under the F. And we don't do A pluses, so your 62 to 64 is your A minus, and then 65 to 71 technically becomes your A. Now again, there technically is no 71, but that's just because the normal distribution doesn't have to fit the scores in the test. It has to fit the statistics that were calculated based on the results of the test. Okay, so anyway, so that's what this curve score is. So if we were to use your score, again, taking this 34, which percentage-wise was an F, now we look at where 34 is in here, and you can see 34 is in this C minus range here, so that means your score under a curved method is a C minus. This one here is a 39. 39 over here is in the 38 to 45 range, so that's a C. And that's how you go down through all of these. So you can see that the scores drastically change. F to a C minus, F to a C, F to a D plus is not as high because these Fs aren't all created equal. 31, 34, 39, you see there's quite a distribution there, and they do end up playing themselves out here between this D plus and the C. Let's go over to this high score then, 61. This B plus actually didn't change under the curve because that 61 is right here at the top of the B plus range. And that's not so uncommon. Usually your lower scores get pulled up by a curve, but your higher scores oftentimes don't, because if you think about the curve, it's below. The majority of the scores are below that high score. So that makes it tough. Although at the end of the day, that helped everyone because this 61 did not become an A. So consequently, what we do then is we have to do this. Whoops, Scott. We have to do curve and adjustment. And what that means is that we now take these curve scores and we go to the highest because now we want to adjust along the highest score. And we say, what does this 61 need to do, excuse me, in order to get into the middle of this A range? So if we take the scores in the A range, 65 to 71, the middle score there is a 68. So you have 65, 66, 67, 69, 70, 71. So you see 3, and 68 is right in the middle. So in order to make this 61 an A, it has to be a 68 in the curve. And therefore, we took every one of these scores and added 7 points to it. If you look up here, let me double click, you can see this equation here says E2 plus 7, okay? And I can do that with each of these, and if you look up here, E6 plus 7, E14 plus 7, so every score got adjusted by 7 points. Then we took these new scores and went back against the same curve, and now we look to see what the distribution was. So now this 31 became a 38, and a 38 on the distribution curve is a C. So this student hence got a C. Let's go to our 61, became a 68. 68 up here was an A. And again, I left the same mistake up there. There we go. Now we got the A. There we go. And accordingly, so you can take any one of these scores. This 54 became a 61 now. At 61 over here is a B plus right here. So as you can see, you started out with these scores. We then curved them, and they went from these grades to these grades under the curve to these grades under the curve and adjustment. Okay, so consequently, these are the scores then that were placed into your mid-semester grade book. Now, ironically, these became grades and not scores, so I had to convert them to a number so they could be averaged to everything else. And so let me show you how that worked. Is we take this C, and if you know, a regular C grade is anywhere from a 73 to a 76. Again, 4 scores in the middle, 73, 74, 75, 76. And so what I did was I gave you the benefit of the doubt and gave you the highest percentage that that grade is represented of. So C's became 76s, C pluses became 79s, B minuses became 82s. Again, there's an 80, 81, 82. So I took the highest percentage. The D minus became a 62. Let's see, C plus became a 79, etc. The B was an 86. And so we took those scores, and let's show you how this happened. They then became your mid-term exam grade out of 100. You can see it says 100 down here. And so this is where you stand at the mid-semester point. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 homeworks for a total of 40 points down here. And homeworks are 50% of the grade. That's what's down here. This exam got converted then out of 100%. And your exam totals are worth 35% of your grade. Now that's going to also include a final, and there's going to be more homeworks, and there will be more quizzes. We really only had one quiz so far. It was the practice midterm quiz, and we gave you, I believe it was like 8 points to get 3. So if you got, you didn't have to get all 8 of them. Remember, we had it timed such, so you had 8 opportunities to get 3 points. And most of you did, but if you got less than 3, then you got the score that you got. And so this was out of 3, and that's worth 15% of your grade. So when you do the math, then let's just take the top person again. When I click in here, you can see up here, and it looks like a crazy equation. But in essence, what it did was it took your homework total, divided by the homework possible, multiplied it by 50%, added it to your midterm exam, divided by 100, multiplied by 35, and then your quiz total, divided by the quiz possible, multiplied by 15. And so when we look here, you can see this G2 minus G26 times G27. And so again, that's this 37 divided by 40 times 50. H2 divided by H26 times H27, same thing, midterm divided by 100, multiplied by 35. And then finally, I2 divided by I26 times I27. Did all of that. That's out of 100%, so we divided it by 100 to give us a percentage. It would have been the same, would have said 87.85, but then it wouldn't have been a percent, it would have just been a total, but it's the same difference. And so that gives you, when you add those all together, the plus sign here, the plus sign there, each one calculates the weighted part of that portion and gives you a total. So this is your grade right now, percentage-wise. You'd have to convert that to a grade. So this 8785 would be a B plus. This 8620 would be a B. This 9135 is an A minus. Here we have a 9285 is an A. That would be an A because then we round up from 0.5. Okay, we round up from 0.5. Here's a 97 down here and a 93. So you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4 straight A's. We only have 2 people, these 2 people in the red, and they do not have F's, but they do have, the reason they're red is because they have less than the 72.5 needed to be a C minus in order to pass this course. Because again, it is a core course and therefore needs to have a C or better, and the C minus doesn't count. Actually, this 6410 is a D, and this 6670 becomes a 67, which becomes a D plus technically. So these are your percentage grades as of this semester right now at this point, and so they will be posted up. I think I put them actually up on the Blackboard. And again, part of the reason is because Tuesday is the last day to withdraw from a class. So these 2 students will have to decide whether or not they think they can do significantly better in the second half, including the final, to get these grades up to at least a 72.5. Everyone else at this point is doing fine. You certainly don't want to get worse. This 74.35 here is about a 1.5 above what is needed, but that's pretty close. You don't want to be there, but you see a lot of 80s and 90s here. So you guys are doing fine. So keep up the good work. Make sure you turn things in. You can't afford these blank zeros. You can see they really hurt people when you don't get stuff submitted. If you have any questions, let me know. Hopefully I've explained it. I don't know how to explain it any better. As I mentioned before, this is the biggie here, the way these are graded, and the final is going to be done exactly the same way. So keep working, keep trucking, and if you're around campus, stop on in and say hi. All right, until then, have a happy Memorial Day. Take care. Bye-bye.